Did you? Oh,
There it goes.
I just wanted to see if you hit the button. We were sitting there waiting a little bit.
We're not late. It was buffering.
It was. You said you had a cold open. Oh no. Oh no.
Look at that, Tom. Look at that. You thought you had the upper hand today. Starting the show with calling me branded average-sized wiener, Perna.
Is that why my wiener hurts? Have you been stabbing? Is that a voodoo doll again? You cursed my team. Stop. We here.
We steer
you in the right direction. Welcome to another edition of the Grossi Perna Show. I'm Tom Grossi. That's Brandon Perna. And this is GPS. What have you done? Oh, my Lord. You have the entire clickbait gang. Wow.
Now, these are not actually voodoo dolls.
Wow.
These got sent Deb. Deb sent these.
Deb sent those to you?
Sent these. And there's even a little Carmi one. There's a little Carmi one.
That is a huge shout out to Deb. Also made the wildflower crown that we auctioned off for the charity event. That is incredible.
Yeah. So I went to the P.O. box yesterday.
Yep.
And Jess was like, okay, you got to open this before GPS. And they're numbered. So Carmi's was first. And then there was mine. And I was like, what are the rest of these? And then it was you. And I was like, oh, God, we got the whole clickbait. And I think Adams, which came with just a hat.
That's good. Yeah, just so you don't get blind.
It's my favorite one. But
fantastic.
We'll show these on clickbait tomorrow. So shout out, Deb. Thank you for sending those.
Hell yeah.
Definitely made my morning.
I love it. Aiden, happy freaking fracking birthday. Let's go. Your Ravens are alive and in prime time and live in color, baby. Let's go. Let's go. We got some stuff to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the remaining playoff teams as there are only 8. And by the way, folks, because we don't count the Pro Bowl, 7 games left. And that's it.
Is that it?
7 games left. We got 4 this weekend. We got 2 next week, and then the Super Bowl. And that is it. The season it's so funny because when we go into wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. Of course, branding.
Is that back?
Yeah, we got to do the branding. Going into it, you're like, all right, there's a lot of games. And once that Sunday is over, you're like, oh, we're in single digits. And then it's just bit by bit by bit. And so we're going to talk about the remaining playoff teams and talk about kind of their strengths and weaknesses. On top of that, we'll talk about Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys parting ways. McCarthy's going to be taking some interviews, as well as was there a game on Monday night? Was there a playoff?
Yeah, your favorite team didn't advance.
Now Sunday.
No, your favorite team, the Vikings.
Oh, the Minnesota Vikings. They played on Monday.
Yeah. The purple people lovers.
Got it. Yeah. I was sitting there watching the press conference. I think there's a few things, right? Because obviously, like, there's the coach speak from the floor, but Jair Alexander, he didn't speak with the press. He's like, I have nothing positive to say. I don't know if I'm going to be back here next year. So there's no huge surprise there. I mean, that was a pretty big possibility that he was not going to be there.
Wait, Jair Alexander said that?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be back. So basically, they're going to have to pay him.
He had nothing positive to say, like about the game or the season.
He was just asked. He was just like, you have anything to say? And he's like, no, I have nothing positive to say. I don't know if I'm going to be back here next year. So, yeah, it didn't look like things were going well. Anyway, I did a video a couple weeks ago about Jair. But yeah, I mean, he broke down Jordan Love's interceptions, and we talked about this on GPS, and he was like, the second one, again, that was schematics. He actually blamed a little bit on Tucker Kraft. He's like, that was supposed to be a 20-yard in, but instead it was 15 in. And he goes, and Bound just put him back into the window. He goes, that first one was on Jordan Love, but like Slay just made an amazing play, and the third one, he just chucked it up. Yeah. I mean, you didn't. I listened to Jordan Love and his post-game press conference too. It just seems like it's disappointment. I was actually really happy with what Tucker Kraft said. He's like, you know what? Honestly, we found out a lot about like folks within this locker room and like what they're going to do for this team. And so going forward, like I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to take on a leadership role. Like he's not a rookie anymore. And I think that's super cool. Josh Jacobs spoke about that. But for LaFleur, man, like things need to change. But I think the expectations are going to be a lot higher this season. Because you had last year where the expectations were low. We didn't know what Jordan Love had. He finishes the season the way that he did. And it's like, oh, now we're having expectations this year. And they fell short of those expectations. Yes, they improved by 2 in terms of their record wins, but they definitely did worse within the division.
Yeah.
But on top of that, like their defense got significantly better. So these next 2 seasons, I really feel are going to like make or break and be like, okay, like what kind of team is this? Is LaFleur that guy? Is Love that guy? And like, I have some optimism that, yeah, because they have a good track record and Love, you know, you had like one good season or at least like the end of that really good season. And then this was kind of like an okay season. You just saw those flashes. So, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what they're going to do in free agency and in the draft. I think they'll be aggressive just because they have the cap space finally. But the biggest news is Tom Clements, QB coach who came out of retirement for Aaron Rodgers, stayed for Jordan Love, will be retiring. So, legend in Green Bay, Mr. Tom Clements.
Nice. He's like, I cannot do anything more for this very normal man, Jordan Love. My work here is done.
Footwork get a little better after the season. But yeah, I saw that too.
Interesting.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about all that and more. How you doing today, bud? You kind of turned the page already?
Oh, the page was turned. The new book has been purchased. And I am ready to not read that one as well. What's the AJ Brown book? Yeah,
it's like spiritual or like
Inner Success.
It's something like that.
How to go inside of yourself. How to go deep inside yourself and feel the truth. Dude, do you think AJ's opponents purchased that book and now they know how to beat?
It jumped up to number 1 on Amazon. Yeah. So maybe.
Dude, I got to write a book and get it to AJ Brown.
Yeah, apparently, Brandon Perna just likes to curse quarterbacks now. He's got the Brett Coleman curse going on because you did that video about Sam Darnold, and ever since then, it has not gone well. And we did a Jordan Love video at the end of last season too.
Yeah,
weird. Yeah, look at you did.
Weird. Yeah, so the curse wheel's back. Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, you cursed the Vikings all right. You cursed the crap out of them, dude.
Ooh, I don't like it though. To be clear.
I know you're doing another video on a certain QB this weekend, so Godspeed. Godspeed to
You're
that
welcome, Detroit.
But yeah, let's talk about that game on Monday because we haven't had a chance to speak about it.
It's so long ago, you know?
It really after yesterday.
I did 2 videos about it.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, dude. It's rough. And I see there's this discourse online because the offensive line was not good yesterday. On Monday night. But at the same time, like, holy crap, Darnold held onto that ball many, many times, way, way, way too long, and ultimately got sacked 9 times. They had the same amount of points as they had sacked. And honestly, I know this is going to be a hot take. I think we can put it to bed. I know there was this argument and controversy all year. Guys, I think Joe Burrow is better than Sam Darnold. He got sacked 9 times in the playoffs and they won that game, So yeah, I know that it was looking shaky. Everybody was saying, Sam Darnold better than Joe Burrow, but this is sarcasm, by the way.
I don't think anybody was actually saying that, right?
No, that was your sarcasm. That was sarcasm.
Okay.
That was a heavy dose of sarcasm. I know it's the
internet.
It's
actually said sometimes fair. I wanted Sam to play well. He played great football for 14 to 16 games this season. He was very good. And then, unfortunately for Sam, in the 2 biggest games of the season, we with extra eyeballs on him, right? It's not a Sunday morning slate of games where the Vikings are mixed in with 7 other teams playing. It is everybody watching. And Darnold played his worst football. I think Kevin O'Connell coached his worst football. I think Sam
Detroit does
just
not like Tony Stafford.
held onto the ball for an eternity. Looking back at
He
that,
did.
dear God, Sam, just throw it away. Live to fight another down, because the thing that never clicked for Sam was 3rd and 16 is better. Third and 16 is not better than, like 3rd and 6 because you threw the ball away, Sam. Like, he put the offense in so many bad positions in that game, and I would say 6 of those 9 sacks were all on him.
Yeah, dude, it was a rough night, and talk like that. I feel bad because like you do have that like really, really good season, and we're talking about Sam Darnold like, oh, where is he gonna go? And every single time, like we're also talking about him, it's like probably to a worse situation. And now I don't think he's back with the Vikings, and if he is, it is not anything like the contract that he was expected.
I think it's on the franchise tag if he comes back. I really do.
Anything? Yeah.
I think that's if they decide they want him, and it's all on the Vikings. Like, Sam lost all his leverage, right?
Yeah.
At the end of week 17, it was like, okay, Vikings, best record they've had since what was it, the 98 team or whatever.
Yeah.
He's in the driver's seat here. If he wants to return, and if Minnesota wants him, like, they're going to have to pay to keep him. And he's going to have options from multiple teams to go out and command a more than a Baker Mayfield type contract, right? It was like, at that point, it was, okay, Baker put it here.
Before Monday, you're saying.
You add more on that.
Yes.
And the Baker Mayfield contract always kind of felt like the fair comp for Sam Darnold there.
Sure.
And I said in the Sam Darnold video, I'm like, the only way the Vikings let Sam go is if he starts in the bed so profusely, like they got to throw out the mattress with him. And then that happened.
Yeah.
And I did not think that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought they might lose, but I didn't think, because Sam was arguably the worst quarterback all weekend. So I feel for him.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make some bank. And I don't think most GMs out there who are looking for a quarterback are gonna go, okay, those 2 games are only who this guy is.
Sure.
They might have some concern on who he is in big games, but I think he can go and win a team a good amount of football games, but it does have to be a good situation for him. He can't go to, the worst team in the league and turn them into a 10, 11-win team.
No. But again, Vikings fans also talking about their offensive line, and the thing is too, that offensive line has gotten better over the years, but the interior, like, because it used to be real, real bad. Yeah. That interior definitely could use some things there. There's good and bad fans, unfortunately, in every single fan base, and unfortunately, you saw some bad fans. That's what happens. That's what happens. Also, real quick, we have the it's true, Jack, excuse me. The Vikings crying on the field.
Yeah.
I want to bless us with the tones of one Paul Allen.
Behind him, Aaron Jones, Addison in motion to the right. 2 receivers left. Rams blitz. Darnold gets away from it. Steps up in the pocket. He's holding it too long.
Just run.
Throw it, man.
Just run, Paul.
At the 25-yard line, he's sacked for a 5th time.
All he's got to do is pull that thing down and run.
Throw it, man.
He's holding it too long. If the announcer has the time to say he's holding it too long, you might be holding it too long.
And honestly, I've had a lot of time this year because I've been watching the Packers pass rush. So like Jalen Hurts will have like 7 seconds or anything like that. So I understand Vikings fans, but yeah, holy crap, man.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Hey, let's go. Yeah, it's a run. And I feel like for Vikings fans, it's tough for a couple reasons. I think it's just one of the biggest fall offs in the span of a week, right? Like it's like, hey, we beat the Packers full-blown celebration. We swept them for the first time. It was like, what, since 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
Huge, like, celebration. We're crushing it. 14 wins. We're going in for the number 1 seed. That did not go well against the Detroit Lions. Honolulu flu came back. And so there was already like well, that just took a lot of wind out of our sail because now we're the 5th seed. We're going on the road. Okay, we got to now see what's going on with Sam Darnold. Now there's not a lot of faith. And then that happens. It's just within the span of the week of 1 seed, 14 wins to, and now we're gone.
Yeah.
Is a pretty big drop off. But the good news is that the Vikings have JJ McCarthy, and now all that hope and optimism can now be, projected on him to potentially save the franchise.
Yeah, and like,
It's true, Carl.
the story for the Bears and Bears fans before this season was like Caleb's going into, the best situation the rookie's gone into for a while. And that wasn't true, but that was the idea. And now it's actually true for JJ McCarthy. He's not a rookie, but he didn't play a single snap this season. So for a young quarterback, he is heading into a phenomenal situation with a great coach. And I think the Vikings bring Sam Darnold back if they don't want to start JJ McCarthy week 1. If they do want to start him week 1, then they can move on from Sam. And you look at Kevin O'Connell's track record and be like, we can keep Dan Jones. We can have a veteran quarterback in this locker room who will be a good sounding board for JJ. A good mentor or whatever. And like a guy who, if JJ gets hurt, we have a backup plan. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. It's like this weird line between loyalty and business, right? Because they took a chance on Sam. Sam gave them everything they could have asked for until the last 2 weeks. And I think as fans, you get the sentimental thing where you're like, they should bring him back, even if they got to pay a little bit more than they want to for a guy who's going to transition to a backup quarterback or whatever, because, they saved him. He kept them rocking, but that's just not how the NFL works. It's like, somebody else can pay him, $30 million a year for the next 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think the Vikings would do it.
I think that team should be the Raiders. That's the conclusion I got to. It's like the Raiders are in a spot where they're not going to, unless they move up or the draft kind of shakes out a little bit, differently than we think. I don't know if they can get a quarterback that they want at 6. They've got so many things to sort of figure out. We don't know what their approach is going to be moving forward as Tom Brady gets more say in how they function operationally.
Which
so they're just like his mystery team. So we'll see. But where Darnold goes is going to be interesting.
Yeah. So let me ask you, do you think the next place he goes, he's a starter?
I would imagine, yeah. Because I think for Sam, if he goes somewhere else, he's going to be a starter. If he's comfortable with a role where he's not that guy, then I think he's going to want to stay in Minnesota, right? Like,
that's fair.
People love him there. The locker room loves him. We know that. He's played at a high level. Like, if he knows his job is not guaranteed,
new starting quarterback,
stay there. I guess a handful of teams I think are going to be like, yeah, Darnold can help us right now. Maybe he's not the guy we want for 5 years, but 2 to 3, 100%.
Because that's the thing too, like unless you bring him in as like that bridge QB, because I feel like that role is where he's gonna, like if he went balls to the wall in like these last 2 weeks, like if he got on the 1 seed or like had even just a really good playoff game, we're talking about this very differently.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there are very few teams that have the wide receiver room that the Minnesota Vikings have. Like there are very few teams, like we're talking about KOC. It's so funny because we're talking about KOC as coach of the year. And then within like people were like, oh, KOC, they should have benched Sam Darnold, like all this and start questioning all that. And I go, you know what? I'm just glad it's not Packers fans. It's not just Packers fans who are like the sky is falling. It's good to know that we at least have some company there.
It's every fan. It's every fan.
Name.
Things are good. Team is awesome. Things are bad.
You know what? Perna, legitimately, this would be a really fun like off-season video to do of like a what if Aaron Rodgers went to Denver. That'd be super fun. I'm curious because I feel with Hackett, it would have been Aaron Rodgers' team, right? I
Yeah.
still think you bring over a lot of his friends over to Denver. I think that's happening still. We're imagining the injury doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Hackett, maybe they last like 2 years. I just don't know if they're winning a ton of games with the roster that they had unless they're bringing in a good amount of folks. Because we're also then having to say that the Russell Wilson trade never happens. So then they have cap space. They can make trades for other folks. Like draft capital is different too. I think they win games.
Yeah, I wanted it. I'm glad it didn't happen. I don't think it would have been as good as we hoped.
I still like Sam.
Maybe
Darnold.
Rodgers never gets injured. Maybe it's a different thing. But
I don't think you win a Super Bowl with him.
What's that?
I don't think you win a Super Bowl with him and Hackett. Like what we found out about Hackett as a head coach, like it literally would have been the Aaron Rodgers show.
Yeah. The one I think about is what if the Broncos had drafted Russell Wilson instead of Brock Osweiler? Like that's my big what if.
Let's go, Max.
All right, Miles. See how long it took me to read that?
Yeah, I did. You know what, buddy? But you're trying your best, and I let you go. Yeah,
I read at a 6th grade level.
Hey, Max, I think kilometers would have been better, but a huge congratulations. Yeah. Let's go.
I mean, what about Brandon? Why don't we just go Brandon?
How
about Perna?
Only Brandon I know curses people.
Perna Miles Herzog. Love it, Max. Miles is a solid name. I think it's a good name.
Jordan, the funniest thing that could happen just from an NFL standpoint is if the Lions lose to the Commanders on Saturday and every single NFC North team, this is the best division, just goes, nope, one and done. One and done. I don't think it's going to happen. No. I think, the Lions have a pretty fortunate matchup with the Commanders, but man, that is going to be a fun game. I'm super excited for that game. And again, if Jayden Daniels is on one, that run game can get going, let's go.
Yeah, I just I think it's a good. I think the Lions are going to score a ton of points in that game. They've had a little rest, which they haven't had for a while. They needed rest more than anyone. So Jayden's going to have to play he's going to have to play the best game of his life to, I think, outscore Detroit, which is possible. He is good. He's been that good, but that's a lot to ask of a rookie. So it kind of feels like the Commanders too have hit their goal. And I think it's difficult to keep pushing forward when you've kind of overachieved to that level. But yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about that in a little bit here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I mean, again, we'll see. But for the Vikings, I think that they have a bunch of free agents coming up, and that would be the concern. But ultimately, if JJ's good, I think that this is just that season where they overperformed and exceeded every expectation possible for them in terms of the Vikings. We were talking about, hey, I mentioned them. I was like, I think their floor. What I say? Because I know it was 10-7 2 years ago. What I say, 8-9 or 9-8. It was something like that. I was like, yeah, I don't think they're gonna be that great. They're gonna finish 4th. They finished 2nd. They competed for the 1st seed, and yeah, they fell apart for 2 games. And not me trying to make Vikings fans feel better, but if you could do that with Sam Darnold and JJ's the guy,
yeah, there's a nice
JJ's
mystery
the guy. This is man, that was a fun season. Yeah, it sucked to end it like that, but
yeah, nobody knows who JJ is as an NFL quarterback, so it makes the Vikings interesting.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is, Sean McVay is just a hell of a coach. Every time we kind of forget about Sean McVay, he's like, remember me, mother lickers? I vanquish all of my foes, my former underlings. I will outcoach them. I will outcoach Kyle. I am the guy who is actually your fringe coach of the year candidate right now. And I should be getting more attention. Matthew Stafford, your trusty veteran quarterback. Try and blitz him. He will just pick you apart. And the Rams have a really tough matchup against the Eagles because the Eagles do not blitz. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But like the story for the Rams in that game was their defense, right? It wasn't just the 9 sacks. It's that Sam negated 82 yards on those 9 sacks. And we're like, oh God, is the Rams defense a juggernaut now? Like, is this the defense we should be talking about? And I think the Rams defense is going to be that next season. I think they've developed, they've grown, but the slate of teams that they've shut down have not been super impressive in terms of who they are offensively over the last 5 weeks. Outside of the Vikings, but we saw the Vikings offense struggle against the Lions defense.
Sure.
And now we're like, wait, was the Lions defense really back, or did they just play the Vikings? So what the Rams defense does against Philly, I think will be a much better metric for us to gauge where the Rams defense is.
Sure.
And the last time they played Philly, I think Philly kind of ran the ball right down their gullet.
Well, they're going up against a much better offensive line, right? Because if you look at the Rams are such an interesting team. And the way heading into Monday night I was feeling about them was, well, what Rams team are we going to get? Are we going to get the Rams team that went toe-to-toe with the Bills? Or are we going to go to the Rams team that couldn't score a touchdown on this 49ers team, right? And again, it's a divisional matchup, all that great stuff. I don't think anybody and Jared Verse, we've been talking about him all year. Jared Verse is phenomenal and could be up there for defensive rookie of the year. He's had a fantastic year, but their whole pass rush is getting after the Vikings. But it's again about consistency, right? They're kind of middle of the road, or were middle of the road for the entire regular season. They were 17th in points allowed per game. They were 22nd in rushing defense and 20th in passing defense. So it was okay, but their pass rush was good. So I think that they're going to have a tougher time with Philadelphia, but whole crap. You talk about McVay, the coaching staff, the D-line staff, they deserve a ton of credit for the way that they attacked that Vikings offensive line, because they were dominating. Yeah. And it was super cool too. Obviously it was a really emotional moment for LA. They're going through it too. So it was just that was a dope ass win for them. And the Rams are always a fun team, but it legit is a box of chocolates and you don't know what you're going to get.
They're not always a fun team. That's why I call them boring heading into the playoffs. But they were fun against the Vikings.
Yeah.
They are fun.
Puka's fun.
When their offense works.
Cup has been a little disappointing.
Yeah.
But.
And so this is all right. They outscored the Bills. That's impressive. But it was okay, they hold the Niners to 6 points. They only scored 12. They hold the Jets to 9 points. They get 19. They hold the Cardinals to 9 points.
Yeah.
Their starters don't play, and then they hold the Vikings to 9 points. Had the Vikings, beat Detroit and their offense looked good in that final game, I would be super impressed with the Rams. I'm not trying to take anything away from the Rams. The reason I'm saying this is I was writing, working on power rankings. And yesterday I was thinking about it. I was I'm ready to go all in on the Ravens defense. That's going to be the angle. And then I'm wait, but, and this has been a narrative all season for, I think, every good team, because there's been this tier of football teams this season who are all just fucking bad. They suck. There was a lot of bad football teams.
Correct.
And then there was, your middle tier teams. They beat up on those bad teams, as did the good teams. And you can look at that, I think, for every single team in the playoffs this year, having a nice run against, whoever. In the AFC West, our nice run was against the NFC South. The Broncos swept the NFC South. So I'm not trying to take away from the Rams here. I think it's just made how good some of these teams are harder to gauge this season in retrospect.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? But if the Rams do this to the Eagles, then dear God, watch out.
Oh, well, then at that point, oh my God, let's get Lions Rams NFC championship game.
An insane championship game if the Lions, beat the Commanders.
But this is again, this is why I love this sport so much. This is why I love the playoffs, because talking about the Rams going into this, I picked the Vikings to win. I thought they were a more balanced football team. And I was okay, I think they should be able to get this done unless Stafford is airing it out. And that first drive, looked like the Broncos' first drive, which they were just moving down the field. They were looking good. They scored, and I was like, okay, let's see if they go back and forth. The Vikings just never went back and forth. And ultimately, like the Rams, now we're talking about them of, okay, like we saw one. Now can they do it against the Eagles, who are going to be a step up? Like they are going to be a step up within competition. But you talk about Nakobe Dean, which Packers got injured up the wazoo. But dude, Nakobe Dean, he's out. He suffered that injury. He got carted off. That just sucks. So that's not going to make their defense any better. And I like Nakobe Dean. He's definitely improved. But what do they need to win it all? It's Saquon. If they're able to establish the run against any of the teams, they have a good chance of winning, right? The things where you're a little bit concerned is like they had 4 turnovers in that Packers game. And until the very end of the fourth quarter, that was a very close game.
Yeah.
So, but the Packers defense has been much improved this year. Saquon also slid too. Like he could have ran it off for another touchdown. So they could have extended that lead a little bit more. But it's running through Saquon and having a great defense. So losing Dean is not going to help, but they still have a great defense and they can go toe to toe with anybody. And if it winds up being what the anticipated championship game is with the Lions and the Eagles, like that's going to be a real interesting game.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to hear Jared Verse's name much against Philly.
Ooh.
They have 2 of the best tackles in the league. In Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, right? Like those guys are.
It's gonna be tough.
They are put them on an island. Whatever edge rusher they're gonna eliminate.
Mm-hmm.
Now Rams got pressure. A lot of their pressure came from the interior in that game, and Kobe Turner. So. We'll see. I just think the Eagles can take away the pass rush, and even if they don't, they can run the ball. And if you're running effectively, it becomes harder to pass rush. If Philly gets a lead, it becomes harder to pass rush.
Sure.
So I think the Rams. I think Matthew Stafford kind of said that. He's like, our offense. We haven't played well, and we got an early lead. We allowed our defense to, just do what they do when you get a lead, and that's just attack.
Yep.
And so, that game's going to be really interesting. And we, outside the Commanders, were the only team who kind of were, in the 5, 6, 7 seed who won. So the rest of it's your top 4 seeds. So we get really good games, really good matchups.
I agree.
Saquon, I think, is just going to be the difference. I think Saquon Barkley is the most important player this week who's not a quarterback.
I agree.
And there's 3 insanely talented running backs this year, all in the playoffs right now. Barkley, Henry, Gibbs. And the Lions are getting David Montgomery back. So, I love that. And the underrated guy in that mix, James Cook for the Bills, who's been a staple of their success. So I love it. I love that the running backs are all impactful. They all had great seasons.
Yeah, man.
And we've been able to talk about them all year.
Like if we wind up seeing like Gibbs and Montgomery going up against Barkley, bro, and again, like the AFC is setting up nicely too, because I think whatever that championship game is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Before we get into those remaining teams, so the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, they are parting ways. Rumor is that they were in contract negotiations. That's why they turned down that interview that the Bears requested of Mike McCarthy. They were like talking about it, and they couldn't have come to an agreement about extensions. But ultimately, they decided, nay, you're leaving. Yeah. And so now the Cowboys. I don't know. All right, so the Jaguars right now, they have Trent Baalke, right, as their GM, and that's kind of like, okay, don't know how I feel about any head coach going there in that situation. Saints, they got their cap, they got Mickey Loomis as well. But when it comes to ownership, you're looking at the Jets and you're looking at the Cowboys is that going to potentially deter any folks? And you're the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and all that great stuff. But at the same time, I don't know if that is the most attractive place to go and coach right now in this offseason.
Yeah, dude. Here's what's concerning to me. If Mike McCarthy didn't want to stay there, contract negotiations stopped. Like, what leverage did McCarthy really have after this season?
Sure.
Why did Dallas not want to pay him if, like that's just is a weird spot. Usually you kind of want to know that decision earlier, sure. You miss out on the first round of interviews or whatever, but yeah, what the Cowboys do, it's going to be important. The Deion Sanders rumors there are funny.
Oh my God.
That's not happening. Deion's staying here in Colorado. Don't you try to take him away from our Buffaloes.
Please. The amount, oh my God, it would feed families. It really would. If Deion went to the Cowboys and then the Giants drafted her, oh my God, please, 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 please. I was mentioned in the chat. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. But yeah, I don't think that's the most attractive option. I don't. Like, you look at the Bears, and I feel like the roster is like, oh, I like this roster.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to get more of an offensive line.
Yeah.
GM ownership, okay, that's the argument there. But like with the Jets, man, like I don't even know. Who knows who's going to be on that roster next year? It is interesting. You need a GM and you need a head coach. You got the Saints. I don't know, man. Like Vrabel, like he went with the Patriots. That was just like, okay, let's pretend to interview a few people. And now we got Mike Vrabel. He's good. He's ours. You guys go do whatever you got to do now. Raiders are interesting. I mean, we'll see again, like you said, with Tom Brady, how much he's going to have a sway in things. And it seems like a good amount.
How dare she?
How dare
she?
Right, real quick. So during Monday's game, I started something that I did not think I was going to start. I asked a question because on the internets, I have seen, and I thought it was like a minority of fans, a Lions fan base, who were like anti-Matthew Stafford. And I was like, that's interesting because, I mean, I saw a majority of people saying, hey, they were happy when they won a Super Bowl, all that stuff. And for the next like 30 minutes of that game, it was, yeah, there's Matthew every now and then, like, okay, but it was generally positive. They really don't like Kelly Stafford. They do not like Kelly Stafford. And I knew they didn't like, but I didn't know the depths upon which they did not like Kelly Stafford. It's significant. So,
yeah.
Well, we know.
Matthew Stafford, very likable. That's all I'm going to say. And since you brought up my coffee, check it out. Rachel worked on the Devil Magic design for me. We dropped those shirts at Benchwarmer Shop. Rachel, thank you.
Honestly, Rachel did a great job with that design. It's a dope design.
I love it. And we've attached Devil Magic to the Chiefs. This is my way of hopefully profiting off of their success. But also, I think next year Devil Magic's just going to go to the team that had like some hocus pocus, help them win a football game. And our first flavored coffee will be coming, and it will be Devil Magic. I've never done a flavored one, so because I'm a snob with my coffee. I
mean, honestly, he'll make that defense better, and that defense needs to get better from the Jaguars. So
yeah,
I don't think we're gonna complain about that Jaguars defense get better because they were awful.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think we learned like Saleh, good head coach, great defensive coach. It's going to be about Jacksonville finding the right offensive coordinator when you bring in that guy.
Yeah,
I sound like a broken record, but like that's what you got to do, especially when you've got a talented quarterback. But
yeah, exactly.
And if the Lions, so I was talking about Sean McVay earlier. I also thought about this, right? We know Sean McVay is a great head coach, and we know that because year after year, his coordinators get poached, right?
Sure.
Offense, defense, doesn't really fucking matter. Teams are like, I want that guy. Dan Campbell, after this season, might lose both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. It looks like that's like a 99.9% guarantee. Both his coordinators are going to be gone. And I think Dan Campbell is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and how he navigates losing his top two guys is going to be his toughest challenge since, coming in season one, and how he continues to progress as a head coach, knowing like teams are going to be gunning for your coordinators probably year after year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that next tier of figuring out how to be a an elite head coach in the NFL. Luckily, they have the foundation, they have the pieces, they have the roster, and you can transition that way. But I think that will be the amount the Lions either stay the same or take a step back or figure out a way to get even better. It's all going to be on Dan Campbell in 2025.
Yeah.
I guess that's now, but
yeah. Miguel, that's a great question. I don't think so, just because he's already getting head coaching interviews. So like he might wind up taking off, like taking some time again. I don't know. I mean, like that's honestly just going to be up to him. I mean, I would love if he even took a coordinator. I don't think he would, but like if he took a coordinator position like in Pittsburgh, dude, like I think that'd be cool. Nice homecoming there, but I don't think.
So McCarthy's interviewing with the Bears, right?
Yeah, he's interviewing. Them, and then
is Arthur Smith interviewing with the Bears or the Jets?
Arthur Smith, I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Let's see here.
Yeah, he's with the Bears. Yep.
Arthur
I mean, again, we laugh and stuff. Like McCarthy is a good head coach, and to be honest with you, like he'd be one of the better ones that the Bears have seen. You know, just like kind of just the level of play, and you know, I don't know if he's going to be the guy there, but he would be an upgrade over Eberflus. I'll tell you that much. He definitely would. So, yeah, Caleb. Well, I think that's some of the discussion too about firing Rand. I don't know, man, because it's Callahan. You don't know about that too, and it is an interesting time with Tennessee, and they're an interesting option too for GM vacancy. They have the number 1 overall pick, but you do have that head coach there too. So very interesting. A lot of folks like to do their own thing when they get there. A Devil Magic cold brew.
Oh, interesting.
Indeed.
Let me see how the flavored coffee does first. I don't even. Yeah, cold brew is a whole different beast, but
it's colder.
It is cold.
It is colder.
You can always make a cold brew with your coffee, right?
Alexander, I thought it was dope. Yeah. I'm super happy for Penta too. I mean, like, dude has worked his ass off, and also getting a Lucha Underground. Don't fall asleep. Shut up. It's been 5 seconds. The Lucha Underground mention on Raw is dope too. All right, go ahead. Go. Come on. I know it's your nap time, old man. Let's go. Get back up.
All right, you guys started talking about wrestling for a second.
Oh, shut up. All right, let's go. Let's go. Come on.
We're gonna find every team's tragic flaw.
Yes, we are. Let's go. Let's find their Achilles heel. Let's do it. Let's rock.
NFL playoff.
What happened? Exactly. That's the first. If it's like a math problem. If you have one timeout remaining and 30 seconds left on the clock, do you A, call timeout, B, let timeout go, 3, take a timeout with you? I think
it's like, at the combine, they're clocking like 40 times and 3 cone drills. They're like, all right, Mike, and go. 3 seconds. That's an improvement over 40 where it wasn't called by Eberflus. Not once, but twice. Mike.
That's great.
Mike, let's just say you have 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Can you call a timeout anywhere in the final 14 minutes? Mike, do you know that your timeouts don't carry over from halftime into the second half? Yes? All right. You have gone to the top of the list today.
If Ben Johnson betrays the Lions and goes to the Cowboys, I hope the next time that the Cowboys and Lions play, that the first touchdown that Ben Johnson calls for the Cowboys is to an offensive lineman who reported eligible.
Yeah.
I just want to say that is what I would like. Shanahan on the hot seat.
No.
It depends on who you talk to.
They're too intertwined. And I believe, weren't they both extended recently?
I don't. So this upcoming season, dude, you got to figure out your off season. You got to figure out what you're doing with Brock. You got to figure out what the hell's going on with the 49ers, first of all.
And you got to figure out how to stay healthy.
Yep. Debo
every other year. It's every other year.
So I think Shanahan's not the first guy on that list of things that need change.
Yeah. And don't forget, like, last postseason, Dre Greenlaw suffered one of the most unlucky injuries we have ever seen. He was literally running onto the field and his Achilles popped. And this season, the Niners, they went through so many key injuries, and you can't say that's just an excuse. You can't say, oh, don't lean on that. The Lions. But fuck, dude, when your team loses all of your key players 4 different stretches, they're going to underperform. But yeah, who's Brock Purdy? Who's Brock Purdy?
Yeah. How much money does he get?
Yeah.
There's some interesting things for the 49ers.
I think 49ers fans, they got to go another 5 years at least with Kyle Shanahan before they can enter the Steelers realm of, all right, it's time to fire our very talented head coach.
But in that vein, though, I mean, there's some similarities. Of course, the biggest similarity is Tomlin's 0-6 in their last playoff game, and Shanahan's brought him to a couple Super Bowls. Yeah. But about getting over that hump. Brother, listen, as someone who had 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, we went to a total of 3 Super Bowls, right? We won 2 of them. I would have loved to get back to a Super Bowl and saw how difficult that was to do. And Lions, I think it
yeah, man. Dude, Kyle Shanahan coached a team to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, for fuck's sakes, guys.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's valid. It's very, very, very valid.
They took the last guy in the draft and got to the Super Bowl.
Appreciate you, Richie.
So, yeah, it was not a great season, but dear God, I don't think Kyle's the problem.
But I understand.
If you want to buy into Kyle being the problem, go watch Grant Cohn every day. Make that guy your enemy, and go live in that world.
Yeah. And
will I over support Kyle? Damn right I will. I'm loyal to the Shanahans. I love the Shanahans. Mike Shanahan, one of my Lord and Saviors. So. I will die defending that man. Anyway.
All right.
Every team's tragic flaw. We're going to start right at number 1 here. The Chiefs.
All right, buddy. Brandon, take the floor. What do you got, my friend?
Well, I want to believe that, maybe a little too much rest is a problem. But I think when you sleep with the devil, it's only going to benefit them. They are going to be the freshest they have ever been, Kansas City. Honestly, I think we have seen the Chiefs' offensive line play significantly better the last few weeks of the season, right? That was, oh God, their tackles are issues. The reason these games are close is pressure. Mahomes has been hit more than he ever has. They eliminated that when they played the Texans last. That game also had the horrible Tank Dell injury. I think that really just took the life out of the Texans in that game. And next to the Rams, the Texans had one of the most effective pass rushes in the wild card round. So I don't think the Chiefs have a tragic flaw. Saying the Chiefs have a tragic flaw is a fucking asinine thing to say. I'm not going to say it. But the way Houston wins this game is they continue what they did. And it starts with generating pressure with Anderson, and they have to perform at the level they did this last weekend, and then they got to take it up a notch to slow down Patrick Mahomes, and the Texans got to figure out how to run the ball. But I think the Texans edge rushers, their defensive line, that's where the mismatch could be, even though it feels like the Chiefs have kind of figured out their offensive line, right? I think that's the difference in this game.
I think it's that Texans, I think Coleman was talking about this too. Like their pass rush is one of the best right now, remaining in the playoffs. And if they're able to make Mahomes uncomfortable, like they can keep this a close game. The Texans are definitely going to be underdogs heading into this. Hell, they're underdogs heading into the game against the Chargers. Yeah. And the thing that concerns me about the Texans is still that offense, right? If they're fumbling or they're throwing an interception, doing that against the Chiefs are going to make them pay for it, right? Yeah. And again, just in terms of even experience. And I feel like with the Chiefs, they're there's all these things that we can talk about, but their number one, the opposite of flaw, like their number one pro is the fact that they have all of this experience. They literally have been here time and time and time again. And it's their quarterback, it's their head coach, it's their tight end, it's a lot of members of that defense. Like a lot of that squad has been in this position. They're won back-to-back Super Bowls. And so like, they're not going to panic, right? The Texans get after them. Like that is a long 4 quarters. And the Chiefs, as they've shown this year, they will drain that clock. They will just grind you down. They'll win 3-0. They don't care. And I think for them, like you mentioned the offensive line, if the Texans pass rush is able to get after him and make Mahomes uncomfortable and stop the run, they got a shot. They got a shot. So I think it's still leaning offensive line because I don't know how productive the Texans like deep game is going to be against the secondary, which maybe you could take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Texans have a very good secondary. I think they can. It's tough against the Chiefs too because right now there's too many guys to account for in their passing game. They, unfortunately, for all of us, good for them, got healthy at the right time. You've got Hopkins, you've got Hollywood Brown to account for, Xavier Worthy's come along nicely, and now, Travis Kelce, who is one of the players who actually I think benefits from some real rest on the Chiefs roster because he's older. He said he feels like he's 22. I hope that just blows up in his face, but it feels like it's going to blow up in my face.
Yeah, I think he's going to.
Travis Kelce's going to be a problem because I think with Stingley, with Lassiter, like the Texans have corners who can hang with the best of them. It's the flip side of that where if the Chiefs just put McDuffie on Nico Collins and CJ Stroud's got to rely on the other targets in the passing game, they become very one-dimensional, and that's unfortunate because of injuries to Diggs and to Tank Dell. Mechie was one of the guys who turned the ball over last week, right? If I remember correctly.
Wasn't that
outside of Nico? Like they've got to find other guys in the receiving game to make plays for them because the Chiefs have a very good defense, and I don't know if the Texans have that.
Yeah, again, I think in terms of the Texans, like their flaw is going to still come down to their offense. They've lost some of their biggest weapons, and they were very slow coming out of the gate against the Chargers. Their defense was obviously like the catalyst and one of the main reasons why they won. So I think it's just that off. And again, a lot of that's not even their fault, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough game, but I hope the Texans keep it close.
One other tragic flaw for the Texans, Tom. It is it is Mr. Late Hit himself, Azeez Al-Shir. I predict during the national anthem, runs across the field, it's Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't take Mahomes out of the game, ejected. So
just a bicycle kick.
Yeah.
Doc, listen, brother. I don't know how many
late
times...
hit. I'm coming in for the early hit. Game ain't even starting yet. And I'm getting Mahomes.
He's just warming up. Doc, that's the best part. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
None of the regular season matters. The only reason it matters right now is because of seeding. That's literally the only reason. So yeah it does not matter. Rams.
I don't know if the Texans are the team to upset the Chiefs. So
yeah,
I would love it. I'm going to be a huge Texans fan.
Yep.
Right. I am right now. I feel it. I love you. Azeez Al-Shir, my favorite player on earth right now. Nico Collins, greatest wide receiver on planet Earth right now. CJ Stroud had the slump, out of the slump. Joe Mixon better run for 200 yards.
So real quick, there is a comment because congratulations to Patrick Mahomes. They just had their newborn.
Third baby?
Golden. So it's Bronze, Sterling, and Golden now.
That's their kids' names?
Yeah. So the latest, the new baby's name is Golden. So I literally was just scrolling Twitter and the top comment underneath was, if Tyreek Hill did this, he'd be on zinc. And I was like, it's well done. It's well done. And then I kept on, I was like, okay. I was like, that's enough Twitter, but we're gonna move on. But yeah, that was great. So congrats to the fam for the new edition.
Yeah.
Bills Ravens. Holy crap, man. One of the games one of the most highly
century,
anticipated
Tom.
games. They obviously played earlier this season. The Ravens were triumphant in that. But as was mentioned in Super Chat before too, the Bills were missing a good amount of people in that game. This is being played in Buffalo. And dude, it is a coin flip for me of who wins this game. Because I think it's a matter of which version of the team are we going to see, right? The Ravens, I want to believe so badly, but they burned me so bad in that AFC Championship game. Because they just got away from their game. So here, I don't think they're going to. He's trying. It's reverse psychology. He's been doing it for months.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's fine. Yep, definitely. But dude, I think just the spectacle. Don't say coin flip. Sorry, Bills fans. Sorry. That didn't even do that intentionally. I think with Derrick Henry being a game changer, let's just talk about the fatal flaws. We'll get to the game. Let's talk about the fatal flaws for the Bills. If they're unable to run the ball, right, and it goes all on Josh Allen, I still think they'll be fine because that has happened before. Yeah. But taking that out of their game might be problematic. I think it's going to be containing Derrick Henry, though.
Yeah, the Bills will run the ball. And you're right. I think the Bills did such a good job stopping the run against the Broncos.
They were a top 15 team this year in stopping the run. So it's just Derrick Henry, you know?
Yeah, but they did it so well against the Broncos. I'm scared they might be just a little too confident that can translate to the Ravens and King Henry. And that's where the Ravens get a little tricky, right? Even if Henry, if you stop him for the first half, it doesn't matter. You just keep going to him and he will break free. So Derrick Henry, he's been such an impactful player all year for Baltimore. I think they learned early in the season, don't limit Derrick's touches.
Yeah.
They won't. I don't
expect it, Gold. I respect it.
I just doubled down on saying the Bills are the best, in my opinion, the best AFC team every week. Facts. Because I think it just goes back to my preseason prediction that they'll get to the Super Bowl this year, and that they've proven to be a very complete football team. The Ravens, though, to me, are the hardest team outside of the Lions to slow down once they get going. If the Ravens score first, it's like they become impossible to keep pace with.
Yeah.
Now the Bills, they show they can keep pace. They did it in that Rams game. I don't know what the Ravens' tragic flaw is right now. I
think it's for both. So Zay Flowers is a we'll see, right? We don't know if he's going to be playing in the divisional round. That'd be a loss. I feel like you're looking at both secondaries for both the Bills and the Ravens as well. If this could just turn into a shootout in which they're just launching the ball, which would be fun. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, and I would say the Ravens have a very good secondary. I'd say you've got Wiggins, you got Humphrey, and you got Kyle Hamilton all playing very good football. So I don't know, man.
It's gonna be interesting, man.
It's gonna be fun. I just want to watch this game.
Agreed. I cannot wait for this game.
I'm gonna figure out a way to just say the Bills will win, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm looking at, the game that I'm looking at for a reference point right now, and they are two very different teams, is when the Ravens played the Eagles. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And in that game, Saquon had 107 yards. He had 23 carries and that touchdown as well. So they had 140 total. But Baltimore outrushed them. They outgained them, time of possession, and they still lost that football game. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this comes down to. Yeah, man, I just can't wait to watch this football game. I can't wait to watch this game. You have Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, both deserving of MVP, both highly considered in that conversation. One of them's going to wind up winning it. And yeah, man, Bills Mafia is going to be going insane. And I think there's just going to be, okay, whoever wins this game, if the Chiefs wind up beating the Texans, which I think is going to be the likely option, can one of these teams knock them off at Arrowhead? Whoever wins is going to have a ton of momentum heading into that game, man, because they're going to be beating one of the best teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen's just got to play his best football game of maybe his life.
Yeah.
And that's mostly like because the Ravens offense is so hard to slow down. Whoever does win this game, just don't beat the piss out of the other team so badly that they're limping into the championship game against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys want to have a track meet where nobody's getting tackled, that's fine.
It's just the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Play it that way. I want you both healthy because one of you got to stop the Chiefs.
Dude, that would be if the Strouds knock off the Chiefs.
Oh my goodness.
That would
I'm gonna buy a house in Houston if that happens.
Going to Texas.
Yeah.
All right, Lions. Talk about their flaws.
None. Perfect team.
So it's their secondary.
Best coach in the league.
It's their secondary. Obviously, get some folks back from injury will help, but I think it's gonna be fun watching this Commanders offense operate against this Lions defense. Yeah. I think like that is going to make for a very entertaining matchup. Like when we were seeing like the Vikings trying to dial it in, but hell, dude, the Lions dominated that front against the Vikings, which apparently now is just a thing, except if you're the Packers, it's fine. I'm over it. But I think for the Lions, like their secondary is the one thing you look at. And obviously, they have some injuries, but they're going to get every game at Ford Field. So that is going to give them a huge advantage. I'm just looking at that defense if we're looking at flaws for the Lions at this point.
Yeah. It's
true.
We know De'Ami Brown's played really well recently for the Commanders. And we'll see if that continues. The Lions really, I think, in the passing game, you focus on Scary Terry first. Brown's been good. To me, for the Commanders, like it feels like Zach Ertz has to have a big game for them if they're going to hang with Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. Like we were worried about the Commanders being able to slow down the Bucs offense last week, and they did a very good job against Tampa. But I haven't seen anybody be able to really slow down the Lions offense for a while. So that's just, to me, the Commanders' entire defense is a mismatch for the Lions at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I think what I'm honestly a little curious to see is with Montgomery coming back, we know he's playing through his knee injury, but what we've watched without him is Jahmyr Gibbs is so good.
Yeah.
It is Derrick Henry, it is Gibbs, and it is Saquon Barkley. Those three running backs are insanely talented. Are the Lions better by taking any amount of touches away from Gibbs? Like, I don't know how they work Montgomery in, and they're different, and what Montgomery brings to their offense is different. But like Jahmyr Gibbs, it is hard to justify not getting that ball in his hands as many times as you can in a game.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying too. Cause like, obviously the injuries are along the D line, but like seeing the way that they handled Minnesota, like that is like, I trust Aaron Glenn. The reason I say the secondary against the Commanders is because Jayden Daniels can just extend the play.
Sure.
Right. So like he could just be like, all right. And he'll just wait or run all around. And that I think is going to be the challenge. When Dan Campbell was asked about, can anybody really stop a scrambling QB? Because it's going to be difficult. So that is where the Commanders are going to have. The Commanders are going to, I hope they play this game as loose as they did against the Buccaneers. Obviously, they very much benefited from that fumble.
Yeah.
But if they're playing like, hey, we have nothing to lose, like we're going for it almost all the time, why not? Because if there is a team that has all the house money right now, it is the Washington Commanders. They're the 6th seed. They made it here. The new first-year head coach, or at least for the Commanders. Brand new quarterback. Let's rock. Like, go nonstop.
Last week we had the battle of the Seans. Sean Payton versus Sean McVay. This game we got the battle of the Dans. So I'm going Dan Campbell, though. I think the Lions might be a close game for a while, but I think the Lions are gonna remind everybody why they're the 1 seed.
Eagles, Rams. Dude, and you know what's funny too? Because like if this was the wild card matchup, I was like, all right, it's the Eagles, and then we're like moving on with our day. Yeah. But after seeing last week, you mentioned Kobe Dean getting injured too. It was mentioned in the chat. And that's just unfortunately just a really crappy injury. This is fascinating because Stafford, I don't think is going to have as many people open as he did in the last game because that Eagle secondary is really good. They're the best.
Cooper Kupp's been so quiet this last second half of the season.
Correct.
Like, where has he gone? 1 reception last game for 29 yards. You know what his stat line was the week before, Tom? 1 reception for 29 yards.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles' flaw is just Jalen Hurts.
I think it's just...
I don't know if enough people are criticizing him this week. You got to criticize him for him to come out and be like, oh, shit, he's pretty good.
I think it's the efficiency of that offense because the Packers gifted them so many opportunities, and that was still a really close game for a long, long time. The Rams, if they're able to get the pressure that I don't think they will, but if they're able to get the pressure on Hurts to force mistakes, then we're talking. But then you just have to contend with Saquon, right? So for the Eagles, I agree. It's actually, making the most out of those opportunities that your defense is giving you on offense. Because if they are able to shut down Saquon, which is going to be very difficult, the Rams got a shot, definitely.
And Stafford was a mismatch for the Vikings, right? Like, the Vikings are a blitz-heavy team. They have been all season. Stafford's too good against the blitz. Vic Fangio doesn't like blitzing. So I was writing power rankings this morning, and I was like, I got to the conclusion the mismatch is the fact the Eagles aren't going to blitz. And then I was like, let me go check this stat. Let me go double check and make sure Fangio hasn't done something different because all this time with Denver, they didn't blitz. And sure enough, fifth lowest blitz rate of any team this season, Philadelphia. Why do they play that way? They've got the secondary. They don't need to. They've got a strong defensive front. Their linebackers have been great. Zach Bond's been, a lot of people's favorite story this year. So it's just like their defense is solid and they can match up with Kupp. Then you're looking at Higbee, who left the last game, but before Higbee went down, he was tearing apart the Vikings, was coughing up blood. He went to the hospital, but I think he's going to be able to play.
Yeah.
So it really comes to I think the Eagles securing and making sure Puka Nacua doesn't beat you. And if that's not happening, I don't know if I think Kyron Williams is a great running back. I don't know if I trust the Rams to outrun the Eagles in this game. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
I mean, when they played last time, Barkley was 250. He ran on them. He beat the crap out of them. So like that Rams, you're going to have to stop the run because I don't think your defense is going to get as many opportunities like you did against the Vikings. So, looking at these games, I'm excited for Lions Commanders just because I think of what that could turn into. The defense of the Texans is going to keep that game interesting. Yeah, I think all eyes right now are just on the Bills Ravens. A lot of people have that game circled, and we could have phenomenal championship games. So we'll see. Perna, what do you got coming out today?
Power rankings.
There you go. Yesterday, well, I guess technically today at 1 a.m., I put out if the NFL was scripted for wildcard weekend. I think it's the longest one I've put out. It is, I think, the best one I've ever put out. So go check that out. And I'll have predictions coming out later today. We'll rock. Probably season reactions going to start tomorrow. But folks, We appreciate the hell out of you. We'll see you tomorrow for clickbait, probably. And then Friday, we'll see you for another edition of GPS. But folks, thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. That's Brandon Perna. This is GPS. And you have been navigated. Only 7 games left. Enjoy them.